Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Thank you for watching Love and Basketball, the second of our 2020 summer screening series. Hope you enjoyed it. We have a special treat for you tonight. The director of the film, Gina Prince-Bythewood, is here to talk to us about Love and Basketball and also her career since then as a director. Gina, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Well, that's terrific. You know, it's amazing that 20 years later, this movie still resonates so strongly with so many people. Are you surprised by that?
I mean, of course. As an artist, you just hope that your film touches people, that it moves people and has longevity. But I mean, I never anticipated this. I wish I knew exactly what it was about this film so I could bottle it up and put it into every film that I do. But it's been really a beautiful journey that this film had, given the fight that it took to get made, to have us sitting here talking about it 20 years later and people still wanting to watch it or sharing it with their children now is pretty amazing.
Now, how did it come about?
It came about because I realized after graduating film school that no one was going to hand me a script to direct, and realizing that I had to create my own work and write something and attach myself to direct. And I thought a lot about what I wanted to write, and decided, let me write something personal, this story that was locked in my head. But also I knew I wanted to do a love story. I loved When Harry Met Sally, and really the very first impetus was, let me write a Black Harry Met Sally. But then as I started to put more personal into it, it evolved. But I knew certainly I wanted to start with a love story. And, started to write. And I had said I was going to do take a year off because I was writing for television at the time, take a year off to write it. And that became a year and a half. And it was a long time. And I was very fortunate that my husband, Reggie Rock, who was my boyfriend at the time, to have him here with me, just pounding out the story and figuring it out, and trial and error, and him not letting me go out with it until it was right. Because of course there's an impatience, you just want to get it into the world. But with Hollywood, you only have one chance to make a first impression. And so you have to make sure the script is right before you go out. So, he was brave to, tell me a couple times, no, it's still not ready and still needs work. But, finally got it to a place that I was excited about it, and went out into the world and got crickets. And every single studio turned it down.
Once it was made and it came out, I mean, were you surprised that it caught fire just out the gate? I mean, certainly with its target group, with African American women and just the community in general.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had two inklings that it might do well. The first was the audience screening that we had, the preview audience. When you make a film, you put it in front of a test audience, and we previewed it at the Magic Johnson Theater in Crenshaw, and we shot it at Crenshaw High School, and we shot in the neighborhood. It was packed, and it was such a raucous screening. It was amazing for that to be my first audience experience. This was my first film, to be able to sit in a theater knowing everything I had put into this film. And you don't know when you're making it, are people going to like it? Are they going to connect with it at all? So that first preview audience is really scary, and the audience loved it. And there was such an energy, and our scores were ridiculous. And I remember Mike DeLuca, the head of the studio, we said, when is that second screening, which was scheduled? And he said, you don't test again when you got an A on the test. And he said, let's go. So that was an amazing, amazing day. And then the second was Sundance. We got into Sundance with it, And I went from, an all black crowd to a crowd at the Eccles, 1,300 people, 99% white. And I remember sitting there and the film finished and it was dead silent. And I remember saying in my head, oh, I guess they didn't get it. And then suddenly the crowd erupted and we got the standing ovation. And it was another amazing night. And given that both audiences connected with it in such a beautiful way, we got really excited about the potential of the film.
Now, the film served as a launch pad for your career and also for Sanaa Lathan and Omar Epps. What was it about the two of them that made them feel right for those roles?
Mm-hmm. When I was writing it, I had Omar in mind. Omar, he was our dude. Then Juice had come out, the program he did, and I just liked him, and I thought he was a really good actor, and I believed him in the athletic roles that he had done, and he was our star. And when I went into that first meeting with Mike DeLuca at New Line, he said, if you can get Omar, then you can, find an unknown for Monica, which is what I wanted to do. And that was great because, again, Omar was my first choice. And the conversation, our first director-actor call was really great. He loved the material. He loved the story. There was a part of him, oh, I'm going to play an athlete again, but it transcended that because he loved the father-son story as well. And so he was in after that first phone call, and that, that was a blessing that, getting him aboard really gave it that green light. And then I needed to find Monica, and I saw about 700 women for it. I thought going in, I had said, I'm going to find a ball player who can act. Given that I played ball, I couldn't cast somebody that looked whack with the basketball. I just couldn't. But Sanaa had done a reading of the script, which helped me get Spike Lee's company and then New Line. But I cast her for that because she just had to sit there. She didn't have to play ball. And she was amazing. She was amazing in that reading. And I could not get her performance out of my head, but she had never played ball, and not just never played ball before, like never picked up a basketball in her life. So I just knew it couldn't be her. But finally, getting desperate, I had her read, and the audition was great. And then I put her with Omar for a chemistry read, and it was like, oh damn, they had that crackle together. And it's just at the end of the day, I realized I got to go with the actor. Her performance was too good.
So let's go back to the Sundance screening for a minute. And you're in an audience in Park City that's majority white, and yet they saw the magic in the movie too. Let's fast forward to today, where people are still sort of surprised by all of that. I mean, where do you think that comes from? Why do you think that people? It was a quality, well-written story about circumstances that happens to us all, but yet there somehow still remains the question that films that, unless they're about white people, that they won't be interested. How do we reconcile that?
Yeah, it's a real thing. I think though it's the fault of the studios and marketing that the moment you have a black character or majority black characters in your film, in their minds it becomes a black film that only black audiences will respond to, as opposed to Love and Basketball is a love story. In the same way, The Notebook is a love story. I don't go watch The Notebook and not feel for those two characters. I'm in love with those two characters. And, we as black artists want audiences to feel the same way about our characters, but marketing just puts everything in a box. So I think it's got to start there, of market these films, market, Love and Basketball, market Beyond the Lights as a love story, as opposed to anything else. And then the hope is that we can retrain an audience to come and see these characters and empathize with our characters, because that will then transcend out into the world, because it's clear that there's a empathy gap in the world. And part of that absolutely is because of Hollywood and what Hollywood has put out.
So now after this movie, I'm sure there's some that thought that you were going to sprint around the track, but instead you proved to be a marathon runner. Was that intentional? Talk about coming out of that experience when all of the, you're the new hot girl, you're the new it girl. Oh, it's, this, that, and the other. But yet you were like the turtle in that race with the hair, very purposeful and intentional. And look, you've crossed the finish line first. But what was that like?
No, I dig that. And well, right after Love and Basketball, I got Disappearing Acts. And Disappearing Acts was my favorite book. I'd read it 11 times. I tried to get a meeting before Love and Basketball because I had heard they wanted to make that film. I couldn't even get a meeting. As soon as Love and Basketball came out, they called me. So that was amazing to be able to go right into that. Now, truthfully, I wish I'd taken a break, but at that stage, you don't take a break. And here's this opportunity of my favorite book. And I love Terry McMillan and a chance to work with Sanaa again. So that was, that was really great. And then I did need a break. And, the years in between my films is honestly for a couple reasons. It's, I have 2 boys and a husband. So if I'm going to be away and do a film, and that's a year and a half of my life, it has to mean something. I have to be passionate about it. So I'm very picky with what I choose. I also take a really long time to write. As I said, Love and Basketball was a year and a half. Beyond the Lights was 2 years. And then it also, you have to take into account the couple projects I developed that just didn't go. And that's, a year, 2 years of your life. But as you said, when I look back, The Old Guard is my 5th film, and I can look back and see every film that I've made and be proud of every film I made because there was something personal and guttural in terms of the connection I had, and I put my all into each one of those things, and again, very proud of my trajectory.
Now, I know when we were talking recently, you had mentioned that following Love and Basketball, that instead of the budgets going up, they started going in a different direction. But yet, obviously you've proven you've proven that you got the goods with Old Guard, which I think had like nearly $100 million budget or somewhere close to that.
It had a lot.
a lot of money. And I guess that those intervening years probably taught you a lot, allowed you to really do a deep dive into your craft and what works, what doesn't work, and all of that. I mean, was it something that bothered you though? The fact that, I guess, you weren't getting the big budget, type of projects, but nevertheless, you were still working.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, I was very aware with the fact that my budgets went down with every film, because what you see with certainly white male directors is your budgets go up on each one. And I kept waiting for that to happen. Kept waiting, where's my $25 million movie? And it's interesting because with Beyond the Lights, when it initially went out, we all thought it was going to be a $20 million movie, but by the time it went through trying to get it set up and getting turned down and fighting, we finally found a place that would give us $7 million. And, in one breath you say, how am I possibly going to do this? We've got Glastonbury, we've got the Billboard Awards, we've got the BET Awards. How are we going to recreate that on $7 million? Yet I needed to make that film. And so we figure it out, and you learn how to be creative. And everyone there is like, I work for scale, the actors work for scale, but when you do that, everyone is there because they love the material. It's not a job. But I love that I was able to take that mentality to The Old Guard, because when you have that much money, there is a tendency sometimes to just throw money at a problem. But I love the fact that I had to figure things out creatively and bring that mentality of I always wanted to keep shooting. You go from shooting a couple scenes a day to you could have the luxury of shooting 8 scenes a day, but like I love the energy of shooting. So certainly I loved having more time and more toys. and knowing that my imagination, whatever I thought could happen, that's an amazing thing to have. But again, the things I learned on every one of my films, I was able to bring some of that to the old guard.
Right, right. Now let's talk about, well, before we get there, let's do another Love and Basketball question. So where would they be today? How do you think their story would have evolved?
Mhm. Yeah, they're still together, no doubt. They are absolutely still together. Their daughter plays ball. She's good. She's demonstrative. Same thing. I feel like Monica's probably coaching, and probably coaching her daughter, and which causes some tension occasionally between the two. But I definitely feel like they have the fairy tale.
Wow, wow. Now let's talk about your new movie, Old Guard, and the success that it's had. I mean, the #1 movie in the world. I mean, what did that feel like on, I don't know when you got the news, was it, let's say Monday morning, and
It was.
and I mean, what did that feel like?
It felt surreal to hear the sheer numbers, to hear that we were #1 in so many countries. I mean, the film dropped in 190 countries in one day. It was amazing, and also given the fact, my whole career I've been told that my films don't travel overseas, so I've never gotten foreign distribution, never gotten foreign press, and yet here I'm having a full day of just Asian press, a full day of just Latin American press, a couple days of European press, and it was surreal, absolutely surreal and beautiful and fun. It was a fun first weekend.
What was it that attracted you to it? I know that you were previously attached to another action film that, for whatever reason, is Hollywood, just didn't go forward. But what made you decide to get back into that whole scene with another action movie?
I mean, I love action films. I love the genre. I wanted my shot, essentially. And yeah, I was developing something that didn't end up going, but that year and a half that I was on that other film, I learned so much about what it is to work on a movie of that scale, with that type of budget, with that type of pressure, and that type of reach. So in getting the Old Guard, it didn't feel like this giant leap I had to make, but it was more like a step. The Old Guard, it came to me just as that other one was kind of falling apart. And I truly believe everything happens for a reason. And the Old Guard had everything that I wanted to do in this genre, given it was two females at the head of it, that one was a young Black female hero. Nikki and Joe, this queer couple, got to be heroes. It felt like the world that I want to see. It was just organically diverse, and the story was really cool to me, and the characters moved me. And despite the fantastical conceit of immortality, they felt like real characters dealing with a search for purpose, and that's something me personally I've been through, and I felt an audience could connect to as well.
So now 20 years later, I mean, how are you dealing with the pressure? Or do you feel pressure now? Or now that you've had an international box office hit, it certainly comes with or does it come with a certain level of pressure?
There's pressure for every film. Most of it is self-imposed, given I just have a fear of failure, and that fear of failure leads to a no-fail policy. But that's good, because that fear fuels me. It is really, really hard to direct a film. It's hard to direct a film with no money, and it's equally hard to direct a film with a ton of money, because there's so much more pressure and so many more voices and so many more fights for your vision. But that fear gets me up first in the morning, gets me on set before anybody, keeps me up as I work on my shots and watch the dailies and get ready for the next day. It just drives me. So I would be afraid if I wasn't scared, because then that means I'm getting complacent. So every film I'm scared, I've got my next one with Viola Davis, but that, again, that fear is a really good thing.
Right, and we're actually honoring Viola in about 3 weeks with we're giving her a nice send-off for Murder, She Wrote with AAFCA TV honors.
Nice.
Um, I mean, what do you want to do next?
It's very funny. After the old guard, as Post was tailing off, I was really looking forward to taking a break because it's been 2 years of my life. And you just feel like you've been in a sustained fight for that long. So wanted to take a break, take 6 months off and write this story that's been in my head and gnawing at me the same way that Love and Basketball and Beyond the Lights did. So I'm super excited about it. But then the script for The Woman King came with Viola attached, and I read it and was like, damn it. I couldn't pass it up. It feels like all of my work, including The Old Guard, has led me to this moment of being able to do this film. So I guess my personal story is going to have to wait another 2 years.
And when do you think we might see a part 2, a sequel to Old Guard?
I have been saying it's up to the audience. Clearly the audience, it's been really great. That people clearly want more, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a testament to the work that we did and the work that the actors did. So I love that. The writer of the graphic novel and the script, Greg Rucka, always envisioned this as a trilogy. So he knows where the story goes. He's told me, and it's pretty cool. So, my hope is that he can get to writing pretty soon.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, this has been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening to talk with us. And again, congratulations on everything. Our organization is a fan of your work, and we certainly look forward to continuing to support and hopefully contributing whatever we can to the success of your projects.
I appreciate that, Gil.
Absolutely. You take care.
You too. Stay safe.
Thanks.